Welcome to Boob Tube Boys. Whoa, no, I'm sorry. Motion Picture Men. I'm Brian Vaughn. I am joined by two other motion picture men. One of them is Van Lee.
Hello there, I am excited to be here.
That's not the worst French accent you will hear
It's really
on this
not bad.
podcast.
I can't do that.
The other is Spencer Hendricks.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm excited. I just heard the song, so it's obvious we're going to do something Italian-based. That's going to be the main theme
Of course.
Obviously.
Meatballs, maybe some pasta, standard, stereotypical
I
Italian
think
stuff.
when we're done talking about the first half or so of the movie we're talking about today, you guys will agree this is an Italian classic. It'll make you think of Italy in the same way The Godfather does.
I love it when Pavarotti shows up in the second half. It's great.
Beautiful. Magnifique.
We can all agree there's absolutely no reason to question why they would open this movie with that song at all.
Yeah,
No.
well, that's it. We don't need to talk about it. We're done.
Of course. Well, this movie, when we say this movie, capital T, capital M, we mean Online 2013.
Not Online 2015, just so
No.
you guys know.
No, and you do have to specifically know it's not exactly a well-known film.
It is on Tubi.
It is on Tubi, and it's on PureFlix, I assume, as well.
I don't know what PureFlix is, Brian.
Oh, I'm Pure America?
Great American PureFlix.
Great
it
American
has to be on
PureFlix.
there. I mean, come on. They have all the good Jesus
It's not
movies.
like they can be picky.
No. It's not like Rev Dave can be picky out there.
No, Rev Dave has to own a stake in it. Rev Dave, of course, being David A.R. White.
He owns the whole thing, by the way.
Oh, really?
He founded it when he started making money off of the God's Not Dead movies, the first one in particular.
Those are the films in which he plays Rev Dave.
Correct.
Yes.
And there's a new one coming out soon.
Well, we'll be on that. And this is all a hint. This is a faith-based film, and I'll give you a brief synopsis, a dear audience. John is a happily married man of faith who just got a big promotion. But what if his ex-girlfriend from high school messaged him on social media? What would happen then?
Fucking.
That's what this movie's about.
Well, not quite.
Does that sound like enough to support a whole full-length motion picture? No.
It sounds more like an after-school special. That
Right.
I would buy based on this.
A little backstory on the choice of this movie, because you may have noticed most of the movies, and we've done only a few, are well-known bad movies in circles. Well, this one is not. This is just one that Van and I happened to watch several years ago when I was visiting, when I was living in Pennsylvania, and we chose to spend some of our brief time together watching this stupid movie together. And it really stuck with me, even after all that time. Why is that? Well, I think it's because it really crosses the uncanny valley of how people act and how people think.
And they certainly all do, the Christian movies. This one just has a little something to it.
It may be worse execution than a lot of those other ones we see, which all have elements of this, but there's so many scenes in this that you're astounded. It's staggering how amateur the director decisions were and the way they staged the scenes and the camera decisions. I was laughing by myself at how they set these scenes up because it was just unintentionally funny the whole way through.
I really think you hit on something there because the acting, while not good, is passable more often than not.
Pretty standard for these kind of movies. Yeah.
But you're right, the staging, the scenery, all the extra stuff around is like,
terrible.
who would make this decision?
It
What
is also
DP would do that?
Just a boorish movie.
Yeah,
It drags its knuckles across the ground while you watch it. It doesn't have any sort of higher intent. I want to get this off my chest real quick. We've watched a lot of evangelical movies, and, we, of course, riff on them while we're watching them, but there have been some that are very good-hearted and we look upon fondly that we have seen.
There are a handful.
We're not ragging on this movie specifically because it is an evangelical movie. Of course, the framing of that doesn't help, but mainly because this is a horrible movie, and it isn't trying to, some movies of this ilk are just trying to pass across a message of kindness. This one very much is trying to say specific things that all tie back to you need to follow the rules we're setting forth.
Rules is a good word for this.
This is
movie.
a real rule follower movie.
Yeah, it's just, you know what the rules are, guys. Follow the rules.
And if you don't, you're kind of filth, is the way, especially one of our main protagonists in this movie we'll talk about soon, acts. He behaves as though you're not doing that. You're kind of trash. He just has that behavior toward our main character.
We often talk about audience surrogates. The character Spencer's alluding to is a bit of a god surrogate.
He's one of the most arrogant characters I think we've ever seen on anything we've covered. We're 150 episodes in, and he's one of the worst.
Yeah. He's up there.
He is a high-class irritant.
So I think the best of these kind of movies are the ones that they don't. It's never a good thing for any kind of medium when you try to get too heavy-handed with it, too direct. This one fails horribly at that. And its tone is very stern and kind of mean and hateful.
It is a mean-spirited
There's
movie.
a lot of these faith-based movies that, first of all, they don't even put their faith part front and center. That's in there, and mostly they're just focusing on, like Brian said, like warm-hearted kindness and family values and all that stuff, and that's cool. You
They
can
have
do
their
that. I have
charms,
no
too.
problem with movies like that, and for people who want to watch that with their families or whatever, if that's what works in your household, great. This one just seems like it was wanting people to feel like shit when they're watching it. And I feel like kind of all bets are off because they went about it in a way that I don't
It's
agree
such
with.
a scold of a movie.
It is basically like a movie that points its finger at you and shakes it.
And
That's what this is.
I feel like it's suggesting, like, you who are watching this, you're not doing these things either. When are you gonna fix that? Or are you just gonna sit there and be a piece of shit?
Oh, you're going to flirt with people on Special Friends page, huh?
And we are not naive. We know this movie is not intended for us. This is intended for a very specific base that already agrees with it. Much in the way that like a Marvel movie might be. I mean, this isn't, made to stand up to criticism. Siskel and Ebert weren't going to review this on their show.
I wish they did.
I wonder how far you could get like a legitimate movie critic into this movie before they would be like, I'm not doing this. There's not anything here. I'm not even going to bother.
I would love to befriend a movie critic and occasionally persuade them to write actual analysis of something like this.
Fun fact, Leonard Maltin actually died watching one of these movies.
Wow, did his bow tie spin around
This
before?
is when I get to say the line that I want to be known for. At least to die doing something he loved.
By the way, I don't know if he's dead or not.
Well, I mean, I hope he is.
in that
he's
moment,
old.
you
so
could
that he
say,
got a chance to do what he loved when he died.
Sure.
In that moment, you could say that God was Halton Malton for good.
Also, I've always said that I want that to be used ironically about me. Like if I die mowing the lawn, everyone knows I hate being outside in yard work, but I want them to think, well, at least he died doing something he loved.
He was one with nature and machinery.
I
His
would love
two
to be
faves.
misunderstood in death. It doesn't matter at that point. So
Sure.
sure.
I now am certain that I will be.
I'll just die at Walmart. I know that's what's going to
At
happen.
least you die doing what you loved.
Yeah, shopping at Walmart.
When we cover TV shows, we go in depth on the background of the show, the cast, the crew. Sometimes some trivia sneaks in. Well, we don't really have a lot of that for this movie because, not a Hollywood production. It was released in 2013 and directed by Kevin Otto, and that's Kevin Kevan. So it could be Cavan or something.
I bet it's AUTO as well.
He's not a vehicle. You can't drive him. And he drives the movie, in fact, because he's the director. IMDb says this guy is best known for films such as Pardoned by Grace, A Question of Faith, and My Brother's Keeper.
I think we've seen all three of those.
Two of them star Joey Lawrence.
Wow.
All of them.
I'm sorry. I mean, whoa.
Thank you. Someone was going to do it. So, and that was the best time for it. All of them try to tackle sort of serious issues, more serious, dare I say, than the ones in online. Things like losing a family member or PTSD. Not just a kiss cheat.
Not just like, hey, there was this girl I used to like.
Right.
The end.
And the internet exists. And, ooh, dinner's here. Oh, and dinner's growing cold on the counter. Those are the different dinner circumstances of online 2013.
There's a lot of dinner in this movie.
Yeah.
They really don't have very many ideas on how to make a scene organic. And that's some of the staging issues I was having with it is most of their scenes, they just gave someone like a mug of coffee or at the very end, a water bottle. They're having something to drink or something to eat and they don't know what else someone might be doing.
This
at any
movie does
time.
not have a budget.
I'm not
of any
surprised.
note.
I can't imagine.
So Kevin Otto, lest you think he's some run-of-the-mill journeyman director, he did receive 2 award nominations at the 2016 Great Lakes Christian Film Festival.
Oh, what an event to be a part of.
I think we
for the
should
movie
start
Forgiven.
getting invites to that. I'd love to go to that.
Yeah.
Well, there's like the Critics' Choice Awards. We could do a thing where we show up as the critics and, people bow down to us. They're like, please love my Christian movie, guys who hate Christian movies.
I bet we could get some real good blood of Christ, like the highest quality they have. This movie, Forgiven, that Kevin Otto was nominated for awards for, it stars Kevin Sorbo,
Oh,
and in it he deals with a hostage situation. In real life, there is no one worse equipped for a hostage situation than Kevin Sorbo.
I imagine like whoever has captured the hostage says something and Sorbo is mean to him or says something nasty and then the hostages die. That's it.
The officer on the scene calls the expert, which is Kevin Sorbo. Kevin, we've got a hostage situation. What race?
Is it a centaur or not? I can handle those.
How many legs? Bipedal or no? Forgiven, aside from starring Kevin Sorbo, it also features Steve Flanagan.
Ooh.
And Steve Flanagan is one of the main characters in Online 2013, the one Spencer referred to earlier, the God Surrogate.
He has a real...
Babylon 5 looking head.
Yeah, certainly that.
He has a crest in the center of it.
There's a big old gap there, and the forehead keeps going.
Do you guys have any speculation as to how that happened?
Injury.
I think it was an axe to the forehead, and that's all it did to him. Like he was totally fine. It just was a dent in his head for the rest of his life.
I mean, that checks out based on what he looks like, and you know what? He still styles that hair, spikes it up as best he can, like he's 20 years younger than he is.
Might I propose then, to further Spencer's theory, that the reason why Steve Flanagan is such a devout evangelical Christian is because his father tried and failed to enact an Abraham Isaac situation when he was a child, hence the axe dent in his forehead, but he's still alive.
I was always thinking like, you know, down the middle, like in the midsection, they meant vertically in the case of Steve Flanagan here.
Mm-hmm. Or like I like to call it, a real bone tomahawk. That happens to someone in that movie. That plot, also that Bible plot, I think maybe happens in Full House with a bike, where perhaps DJ and Stephanie want the same bike or something, and Uncle Jesse threatens to whip his mullet at it and cut it in half.
I thought you meant like a hostage situation, but with their bike.
Yeah. Well, couldn't you see Bob Saget's character perhaps losing it one day on the set of Wake Up San Francisco with Vicky?
And he kills everyone in the Full House household?
Yeah, or at least shoves them.
Dave Coulier would be the first to go.
Or he could also lose it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
I think Stamos is the most likely to hold it together because people have liked him as
He's got less to be upset about.
Get that belly button, too.
All those vests and white T-shirts with chains. That's all he wore in that show, I think. I don't remember.
How have we not covered Full House yet?
Oh,
that's surprising.
Well, we just got around to Family Matters, so it's probably coming along soon.
We'll get there.
Morgan Ayers plays the main character, John. He's had a dozen or so acting roles in network shows like the Hawaii Five-0 reboot, Sleepy Hollow, Nashville.
Really?
Yeah.
So he's had actual roles? Because he is abysmal in this.
He's not as bad as some of them.
Well, yeah, but he's still pretty abysmal.
He's really bad, of course.
He doesn't react like a human ever would. That's my big problem. Is his showing of emotions is not what people do.
He's, for the most part, normal bad, except when the script calls for him to do a little more. Toward the end when he has this big emotional revelation.
Well, that is hilarious.
Yeah. I think the camera was really trying to get all the way down his mouth at the end there.
That's where the forgiveness is.
That's where the God is.
Yeah. Other notables include Kelsey Sanders, who plays John's wife, Mary. Get it? Mary.
No, I didn't even think about that.
Bible.
Has to be on purpose.
And Essery Holmes, who plays the temptress, ex-girlfriend Adrianna, or Mary Magdalene. No, not really. She's just called Adrianna.
And she hasn't had any roles. She was, I guess, like a model and appeared in one thing and then this.
Well, this is probably all biographical for her then, because she's a model, an ex-model in this movie.
Yeah, she really pulled deep within her life experiences for this movie.
And we will address any other of the richly developed characters that, that arise as they arise. Do you guys want to talk about this thing? Do you want to start?
Nah, let's go home. We're done.
Do you want to pray?
I do. We should get in the center. How do you pray? You put your hands in and you go team and then you pray to God.
Pray however you want to.
I think that's Red Rover.
Oh, I was good at Red Rover. I would fucking run into people so hard.
I was too tentative.
I was bigger than most of them too.
We begin at a restaurant and Mamma Mia. It is I guess at a generic Italian restaurant where that song plays that we began the episode with.
And I looked it up because everyone's heard this song. We all know it. It is actually called Funiculi Funicula. That's the name of the song.
And they do sing that.
Stereotypical Italian song. What I think of when I hear it is when I was a kid, I used to love board games. I still do. And there was this one called Grape Escape. You guys know that?
I remember it vaguely.
Something that's the way you do it when you play the Grape Escape or something.
Make 'em, take 'em to the factory. Smash 'em, mash 'em, now they're history. A little, and now you're a little out of shape. 'Cause that's the way you do it when you play the Grape Escape.
Brought it right back to me.
Yeah, that was the song. And basically it was, you had to roll the dice and you move your little grape, which was made out of Play-Doh. And when you landed on a certain spot and a trigger happened, there were things that you would turn a crank and it would make like scissors cut your grape in half, or like a steamroller, roll them, splat them down. And ultimately what I learned when I finally got a hold of this game is that it really didn't work as well as it did in the commercials.
I think you play it once because you want to smash all that shit, so you're excited, and then you play it once, like that was messy, and you just put it in your closet and never touch it again.
I bet the villain behind this whole circumstance is Adrian Carsini. The goal being smash up a bunch of grapes for me.
Yeah, make some wine. And then the Play-Doh hardens and it doesn't work as well as it once did. But yeah,
I bet there is an old, like 30-year-old version of Grape Escape in my closet at my dad's house to this day.
That'd be awesome. There's probably one at my mom's house too.
Probably a toilet in there, too. It's not at all the same house, but there is a long-running thread in this podcast that Spencer once lived in a house that had a closet toilet.
It's what I think, but I think at this point the mystery is better left unsolved.
It might be.
You're in a hurry. You got to put your sport coat on. You got to take a shit at the same time. There you go.
If this podcast ever becomes a big thing, there'll be a documentary about that. Someone trying to solve the mystery, track the house down. We first go back behind the line at this Italian restaurant, and we see some, I guess, frozen food aisle stuff being prepared by a fake chef. Then we go out into the dining area where around a table we meet John, our main protagonist, as well as his friends, I guess, from work. One of them is around his same age. He doesn't ever get a name, but he's played by a guy named Brad Allen, whose IMDb reveals that he just has done like electrical and sound work, which is good because he's the worst actor in the movie.
I was just going to say, absolute worst. And this screams, guy was on set. We needed another role. Here he is.
Here, try to approximate talking. And he could not do that. But you know what? He gave it a try.
He was just in the two scenes, right? Pretty much. Yeah. And then he's ushered out of the film.
He makes me uncomfortable. I don't like the other scene.
Well, I don't like him at all. Something about his beard and the way he looks reminds me of like a kid in high school who's just real mean.
Well, you know, the camera holds his empty expressions way too long, too. Like they don't do him any favors by panning away from him.
He looked like he was about to have a panic attack.
And it is
because
empty.
He probably was. The other two guys at the table are older. One of them is a guy named Gerald, and the main thing about Gerald is he does not like his wife. And he does like the idea of cheating on his wife.
He seems like some sort of, I don't know, ladies' man, but I think it's all posture. Do you think in the character of Gerald's real life, he does talk to his old girlfriends, or do you think he's just spouting off bullshit?
I think he's talking shit.
Okay.
Yeah, Gerald, I think, is way more bark than fuck.
Yeah, I mean, just look at him. He doesn't have like.
He's a weaselly man.
He's not actually going to do anything. I kept waiting for them to give him a chance to kind of say that he wouldn't actually do anything, but he just holds on the whole movie. He's like, yeah, I'd fuck anyone but my wife if I could.
And our fourth is Steve Flanagan's God character, Alan. Alan is an older man. He has silver hair and the dent in his head that we discussed earlier. When the food arrives, Alan, I think, conveys a good part of his character just by talking.
Would you guys mind if I ask the Lord to bless the meal?
Okay. Does this ever happen to you while out at dinner with friends?
Yes. Second part to the question that I want you guys to answer as well. You're out with coworkers, all men, because temptation, if there were women there and all. And one of them asks to bless the meal. What do? I'll start with everything. So yes, it's happened to me. A little differently. I went out with Katie, my girlfriend, as well as a different coworker that we both work with at different times, and we sat down at McDonald's to eat. It was just during work hours.
That's funnier.
Blessing McDonald's. Wow.
Precisely. So we go to McDonald's. It's during lunch. Actually, this is when we all work together at the same place.
Thank you, Grimace, for this meal.
So we sit down.
Well, that'd be all right if you want to do that.
We get our food, and I said, anybody want to bless this meal?
No.
Oh, no, you set it up.
I look to my left at Katie, and she has a ghostly expression on her face. I look to my right.
Holy ghostly?
And this other guy who's with us puts his head down and prays over his McDonald's meal. I was super
It
embarrassed.
wasn't out loud though. Like he just did it himself.
I don't think so. I think it was, just the Holy Father, just to himself. But I don't remember entirely.
Well, yeah, you were probably mortified and checked out mentally as soon as you saw that.
Certainly. Now, as far as what would I do if it happened, like now, like I went out with a couple of coworkers or whatever, I'd just be quiet.
Of
I'd put
course.
my head
Yeah,
down.
you have your blessing. That's fine.
The part about this that is weird is I believe the writer thought having him phrase it this way was less weird. But like, hey, you guys, do you mind if I say a blessing or say a prayer? Versus, do you mind if I ask the Lord? Or what he phrases it very in a wordy way that feels written by a bad screenwriter.
Sure.
And it makes it feel almost more in your face. It's not meant to.
And you know how you mentioned that Alan is the God surrogate?
Yeah.
So Gerald is like, all
The
these
devil
Christian
surrogate.
movies, they do this. They're like, let's put one of the normies in there. Like,
Yeah.
let's put one of those
What do
secular
we think those
motherfuckers.
people are like?
Yeah, and they don't know. It's very obvious they don't know. They try to give some kind of approximation of what a secular-minded person would do, one of those sinners. And Gerald is doing his best at that, where he's real sarcastic to Alan. Is like, I don't think that prayer is appropriate for a work meeting, Alan. Something to that tune. And it's just very
Which no one would
jilted.
say.
It doesn't work. None of it works right.
During all this, Gerald actually, Spencer already said it. He's rolling his eyes while he's arguing with the idea of prayer as well.
He's pantomiming doing the prayer in a nasty
and again,
manner.
no, people don't do this.
No, this is instantly putting Alan in some sort of like victim position. It's like he's just trying to do his beliefs and he's being judged for it. So right off the bat, they're trying to set the tone of like secular people not wanting the Christians to have their prayers in public places.
And this is kind of what I meant earlier. This is like, oh, look, Thor's got his hammer. You know, I imagine when you're watching this in the church basement, you're like, oh, they're setting things up. Of course, you know, your Christ figure is getting the nails. They're starting to wedge into the palm.
I
The
wonder
Romans
if
hate
like
him.
in a group setting, like in a church basement where they're all eating their popcorn and they're all side by side with God and they're watching this. And I wonder if Gerald says this thing and they're all like, boo.
Yeah. They throw popcorn at the screen
I like the idea
and then
of
go
that.
pick it up.
I like the idea of that guy, Gerald, being like
Yeah.
hated by a group of people.
Yeah, just a middle-aged
randomly.
guy.
He gets that actual reaction out of them. But that, by the way, you're setting up the Christians as being persecuted is the hallmark of every Christian movie. They believe to their core that agnostics and atheists and everyone else are trying to take away their rights. And no one's trying to take away your rights. Also, you've had the number one status forever. So you can keep doing your stuff. Just leave the rest of us alone.
Yeah, it's more that, you know, I just don't think
But
of
keep
them at
making
all.
these movies. Spencer, that's exactly right. Like, I think that the idea that anyone out there who isn't participating in the same faith as you is actively spending all their time thinking about your faith.
Wanting to snuff it out.
And I imagine that is most religions, like that they kind of
Sure.
assume that they are what a narcissistic way to be.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, just to imagine that it's just because somebody doesn't do it, they're actively trying to stop you from doing it.
Yeah.
That's not the case at all. Have your religion, that's fine.
I like the idea of a movie, though, where we have the main Christian characters talking about, you know, the agnostics. They're coming after us. They're going to constantly take away our rights. The movie flashes to an agnostic who's just sitting on a chair, sitting silently, not doing anything, because that's what happens.
That's what I imagine, like, in this movie. If I were in the world of this movie walking along, they'd look at me and like, someone unbound by dogma. What do I do? I don't know how to talk to it. How do we portray it on screen? Do they have hands?
Make it angry.
John and his friends, again, it seems weird. They don't seem to really know each other either.
Or like each other.
After dinner, they talk again about how John got this big promotion, and they drink some post-pizza hot coffee
Which
like
is
people
just the
do.
weirdest thing. You don't go
No
to
one's
an
ever done
Italian
that.
place and you might have like
Espresso, I guess, yeah.
Like, but probably
That's not what
like
this is.
like it's not like a dessert thing after the meal.
Like black coffee.
I'd like some coffee at this Italian place after we had our dinner. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, there's also nothing like the high-powered executive meeting at the local pizza joint.
Why did they order so much for 4 of them? They ordered a large pizza and 2 other big meals.
Like
And when it-
entrees,
And
yeah.
when
it's
it all
just
gets
4 of
there,
them.
Alan starts doing some ADR work, dig in, stuff like that I hate when people say.
Maybe his crease separates and he shoves the food in there. It's just like
That's how he eats.
that's
Suck
where
it,
the
mouth.
that's where the whole pizza went in his head.
Well, I'm telling you, you get some shredded beef, you get some lettuce, some cheese, you put it in there. It's a taco. That is a taco.
So do you have to eat out of it? Does he serve it to everyone?
Yeah, he lays
my,
down.
Have my taco face.
And you just slurp it right out of there. Hey, you could put a bowl of cereal in this thing.
When he's so encouraging like that, saying like, "Diggin, come on, guys, eat," it makes me think. Anytime anyone does that, I'm like, "Did you poison this?"
Why are you so invested in what I do?
I'll get to it on my own time. God.
Why are you watching me nervously?
John tells everyone, "I worked hard for this promotion. I barely see my wife Mary, my devoted wife Mary." And that draws two different reactions from the table, as you might imagine. One, like, "Oh, I wish you got to spend more time with your wife." The other, "Wives are the worst thing."
Women, am I right? Honestly, though, the women, am I right reaction is less offensive to me than what the sad electrician guy does here in a second. That bothers me.
Can I have your wife?
Yeah,
I can't
pretty
find my
much.
own.
Oh, your life is good.
John tells everyone, "Well, I'm really lucky because Mary's great. She doesn't even bother me about the toilet." That guy who doesn't have a name, the younger character, he laments being alone and seems kind of suicidal. It's honestly horrifying.
He's sad. It bummed me out seeing this.
And no one even really addresses his concern,
No.
like where he's like, "I can't find no one," and then everyone else just kind of keeps talking.
Yeah, like, "Oh, we better not address that. That's too scary to look at." Gerald offers up, "Wives are very bad." And I don't know why I'm saying this, but you should start thinking about what if someone preemptively came back into your life from the past and how great
That's
that might be.
the weirdest thing to say just out of context at a
Yeah.
dinner with your coworkers. Like, who knows? Maybe you'll fuck someone from your past soon.
It's like in the world of the movie, Gerald works for God and got a text about what the future is. God's like, "You got to usher this along. You got to get John in the right mind space."
It's just a very weird. Hey, do you guys ever think about people you used to date and long for them lovingly? Like, what could your life be?
Like, even if your life maybe seems ideal right now, like maybe theoretically you got a big promotion. Alan shuts all of this down. He says, guys, everyone is faithful to their wives and protects them in the elevator." And then everyone starts talking and combines to preview the plot to come.
Guys, I think we can cut him a little slack. He's a happily married man, okay? Gosh.
Thank you. Plus, that ship sailed a long time ago.
No, it hasn't. I mean, come on. This is the internet age. We're just a few mouse clicks away from finding out about anyone.
Well, I can't do that. I'm married.
So am I, but I have a ton of old flames I still talk to online.
Really?
Yeah, on socialfriendpages.com.
None of that sounds like real people in any way, or real actors.
It does actually start to, at the end, sound like some sort of advertisement for Social Friend Finder, whatever.
Oh, socialfriendpages.com, Spencer. That's the name of the website that is very central to the plot of this movie, which is another mark in its favor.
Ooh,
Oh.
yeah.
The bummer kid here with the little beard that I don't like,
Yeah.
his name is Bill. I forgot I somehow found that out. The character's name is Bill.
I liked thinking that he didn't have one.
They don't say it. I don't even know that he's listed as that in the captions.
How
I
did
think it
you
was
find out
IMDb.
He's
then?
not
Okay.
listed on IMDb as that.
It's not?
No.
I could have swore it was.
I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. I researched this a little while back.
I got to tell you, none of that matters. So
No.
it's okay.
No, and it never will. The scene concludes the only way it could, by Alan paying for dinner. Back at home, John arrives and is greeted by a little scruffster dog who threatens briefly to become the one likable character in the movie, but this is the only time we see him.
Oh, and John doesn't seem to know how to actually pet a dog.
No, I don't think he ever has before.
He reaches at it and like claws at the head, and it's this very old little dog.
Claus is right, because it looks like his arm is a claw machine arm getting ready to pick the dog up by the head.
And the dog seems to sense that this is a scary person to be around because
Yeah.
it's not sure of John.
Like, this is a guy who just got a promotion and might be headed down a dark road. John goes up to the bedroom and realizes Mary's asleep, so then heads back down to the kitchen as dramatic music begins to play. Why? He's just going to his kitchen. Well, that's because he's getting on his laptop, and the first thing this little fucker does is go to socialfriendpages.com and search Adrianna.
No last name.
No.
It just says the first name.
You don't need one.
So let's talk about what this thing looks like. Socialfriendpages.com looks ancient, like Angel Fire era, and this movie, again, 2013 is when it came out.
Honestly, the Touched by an Angel stuff that they made looks better than this.
Or at least equivalent. It's
Sure.
really goofy.
And that was from, the actual very beginning of the internet era. This is well into it. I do think I don't know the right word. I want to say admirable. It's admirable that somebody associated with this movie built that website.
Oh,
this,
they did
this
something.
platform, if you want to call it that.
They did have a real URL. It was socialfriendpages.com.
Which
They
is
got that
always
right.
on no matter whose page he's on.
That's
Have you
the
tried
problem.
to actually go there and seen the results? I'm assuming nothing happens, right?
I can't believe I didn't, but I'm sure it just error
Go to it right
404
now.
over.
Van,
Let's
go-
check it. Let's
All
try
right.
it.
Social friend page. I'll continue to describe the design as Van looks up the real life equivalent. You see 4 men's photos on Adrianna's page, and they're tied to corresponding arrows. One of them is capital S, lowercase f. It's the only one that has a capital letter. The other ones are lowercase bf, gf, and just f. What do these mean? What could they mean?
They're certainly not initials.
Van, what did you find out?
It just says this site can't be reached. So
Oh.
nothing there. We should buy the URL.
Well, you have to be a Christian. Oh, we should buy the URL.
Maybe my computer knows I'm not a Christian, so it's like,
It does.
can't let you go
They
there.
can tell by your IP address. Adrianna has a quote on her page. It's, "Life's a ho-ho wee-wee." And options on Adrianna's page, and assuming everyone's landing page, include profile, text me, status, and all caps, my fun.
Isn't this the profile?
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm telling you, none of this really adds up to real. All of this feels like it's in the Matrix. Something we discussed before recording.
One of my favorite parts is he gets on socialfriendpages.com, searches Adrianna, and when he finds her, he goes, "No way.
She exists.
Who would be surprised a person is on a social media page? Even 2013.
Yeah, that was well into the social
I thought in the
media.
intervening 8 years she ceased to exist. Now we get a flashback, and you know that because the edges of the screen get lighter. And there's I describe this as picnic-style music plays. And we start to learn the significance of Adrianna in John's past. We see young John and Adrianna laying out exposition to each other for our benefit. We learn that John's the son of a preacher. Adrianna is a cheerleader at this moment in time. And they wanted to spend their lives together. But you know what? It just didn't work out that way. Well, but we're back in the present. Mary, John's real wife, in real time, wakes up old sleepyhead John like a mom would. It's kind of infantilizing. It's really creepy.
She has all but like an apron on in the scene.
These are people who grow up and he'll call her mom.
Ugh.
There's a couple scenes in this movie where they seem to be having an unhealthy amount of trouble waking up. Like
Yeah.
they seem like they're
Depressed.
so tired that maybe something might be physically wrong or mentally, sure. One way or the other. They just don't. What does John say when she tries to get him? I just need another 8 hours. It's like 8, 9 in the morning already. He's like, I just want to sleep until 5, honey.
This is an example of the kind of humor that we get in a lot of these
Yeah.
evangelical films, which is very
Oh,
coffee
he
and
wants to
sleep
sleep
based.
all day. What
Yeah,
a loser.
Mondays. It's very childlike humor because honestly, developmentally, when you shut a lot of the world off, well, your humor might
Yeah,
stop there.
what other topics of humor would they be able to go to?
Kids and
Gabriel.
grandparents and
That's pretty funny.
Ezekiel, Austin 3:16. No, wait,
Yeah, that one.
Just whipped your ass.
John 3:16.
Yeah, that's the one. Maybe Murgatroyd. That's a Bible thing, apparently.
Oh yeah,
Murgatroyd. That's a name in the Bible.
Yeah. Heavens to Murgatroyd.
Heavens to Murgatroyd. Would you rather watch Hanna-Barbera cartoons or this movie?
This movie.
I would too.
This
Well, I
movie
mean,
is
this
funny.
has entertainment value.
Yes.
It's not on purpose, but it's there, whereas the Hanna-Barbera ones did not.
This movie's like smelling gasoline. It's kind of tempting.
Well, I do love the smell of gasoline.
That's what I'm
Everyone
saying.
does. Yeah,
What
it's
was that Heavens to Murgatroyd creature? Was that like a panther?
a creature. Wasn't it Snagglepuss?
Snaggle- He was
Snagglepuss,
pink, right?
Yeah, I was
Snagglepuss.
Yeah, that's the one.
Was that the guy?
I think that's the one.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Huh.
Oh, I'm sorry for whatever I did to the microphone, but you can't do that voice quietly, really.
It's your mic. You can slobber on that bad boy all you want.
That's why I have the screen here. Oh, Mary, she's such a good wife. She's already made breakfast for John, too, even though she has to go deal with Timmy Smits at the doctor's office.
I
tonsils.
still think she says Jimmy Smits every time. And I think I don't know that I would want to be there when you had to take out Jimmy Smits' tonsils.
She's excited about it. She's like, I think those fuckers are ready to come right out.
When he's 70, he's finally ready for those tonsils to come out.
We need to anesthetize Bail Organa. Mary heads off to deal with Timmy Smits, possibly the son of Jimmy Smits. We don't know that he's not. John goes to work too, and his friend Bill, apparently is his name, comes in for his second big moment in the sun, and it is creepy. It's not meant to be. This is supposed to be a scene of humor.
Worst scene in the movie.
The idea of the scene is that John Wilde, our main character, has been promoted, and Bill says, hey, you should call yourself Mr. Wilde and have everyone else call you that, like our old boss.
Steve Jacobs.
Steve Jacobs of the Power Team. For some reason, it reminded me of that guy. What's his name? John Jacobs.
Yeah.
It always makes me think of Steve Jobs when he says that. Our old boss, Steve Jobs.
Yeah, he worked here before Apple, and then he died. So the idea of the scene is that Bill, who's the same age, is the one who suggests that, let me start this whole, I don't know how to explain this. It's so stupid.
Yeah, because it's bad.
I hate it.
Or you should call you what we called the boss, even though you're young and he was old. That's basically the whole thing.
Yeah, okay, Spencer
Done.
said it. That's the joke, is you should act like a big stern boss when you're a little boy playing dress up.
But there's ominous music, and John goes, I should play a prank on him because this is the extent of my
And these are
ability to be
not-
funny.
For whatever kind of actors these are, which are bad, they're not especially good at comedic acting.
Well, they did not get their chemistry and their timing, not there.
Not there. So it winds up that we're scared watching it, and Bill is...
And Bill's scared.
Yeah, Bill starts to think John is serious about wanting to be called Mr. Wilde before John says, JK, I'm a nice guy, I'm the protagonist.
And honestly, Bill never does seem like he's calm about it, even though he's like, I'm just kidding, I'm just messing around. Bill leaves the office terrified. After like 2 minutes of pausing there, it's so awkward.
Well, once Bill does leave, John, the first thing he does is pop his laptop open and go to socialfriendpages.com, and he has a message from Adrianna.
He's pretty much, by this point, you might as well, like buried in the audio, hear a little zipper under his desk.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
He's already getting there for Adrianna right now.
And if not a zipper, perhaps a rustling from where the boner's beating against his pants.
His pleated pants.
Yeah, like a windsock. Another flashback. John and Adrianna are in the car and young when she turns off a really cloying, awful song and tells him that she and her family are moving to France.
She says, John, there's something I need to tell you. I'm 32 and you are too.
That's what I was going to say. When you describe it as they're in the car and young, and it's like in my head, I'm picturing them, or just, how they look in the movie.
They didn't change them at all.
No, they didn't try.
I mean, young on the geologic
sure,
scale.
they're supposed to be.
They promise they'll be together. She'll find a way one day or whatever.
And then leaves.
Yeah, and we're back in the present day. There's new dramatic piano music playing, and John is staring between two different screens, assuring himself out loud that he's happily married. This happens a bunch too, and I love it. No one's in the room, and he's like, I am married to Mary, and I like it. I'm happy about it.
I also thought it was odd that Alan told him he was happily married at the restaurant. I think that you're supposed to be the one that says that. Someone else doesn't tell you, what are you thinking? You're happily married.
It's a real Johnny is my best friend situation.
He has to send an email to Alan that says, like, am I happy in my marriage?
Well, I think Alan would
Pre-marriage
have
status.
Alan would have a lot of thoughts on that.
That'd be a long email. And right away, this whole thing is pissing me off because
Really?
It's centered around the concept that a man and a woman can't be friends. You're going to fuck if you're a man and a woman.
That is a really unhealthy viewpoint.
Yeah,
It
it
really
is.
is.
And it reinforces like the age-old sexism and misogyny that,
Yeah.
what we're still dealing with all the
You
time.
don't want to be around a woman in case you fuck them unless it's your wife.
Yeah.
That's
And it's so demeaning.
too
and
much of a risk.
The movie also reinforces the idea that women have no self-control. It's the old Mike Pence, like, I won't be alone with a woman just in case. They can't keep their hands off Mike Pence.
They've all got little horns and a
They want to
tail.
grab the Pence pole. And it's like, who do you think you are? And who do you think women are
And
at
why do you look
large?
like a human Cotton Hill?
Yeah, and like, go away. Mary, we get to see her workplace for the first time. And she's bribing a little bowl cut kid with some candy to get him to be good at the doctor. The kid's mom is saying, hey, you work at the doctor's office. Why haven't you had children yet? This is appropriate. Hey, why haven't you had kids yet?
Thank you for being a good doctor for my son. Can I talk about your personal life now?
Hey, what's your womb doing? Back at John's work, Gerald stops by. He's always fun. John asks Gerald, if it were you and an old flame reached out, What would you do? Why did he ask him? This question was answered in advance at the restaurant.
He's just trying to see if Gerald would really go for it. Gerald says, yeah.
He does. Gerald confirms, of course I would. I would do it all.
What is the metaphor he uses, the Christian metaphor?
He says, does a rooster crow when it leaves the hen house? And John says, haha, yeah. What John should have said is, haha, I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
It's
While slowly dialing 911.
Of course, it's the origin of that being, does a bear shit in the woods, that sort of thing. But
sure.
Christians say, does a rooster crow when it leaves the hen house, apparently?
But I don't understand that structurally. So, all right, you've got a hen house, you've got some hens, you've got the rooster, who's the noisy one and the protector. He leaves and then he starts yelling. Why do what? That doesn't have anything to do with roosters bang chickens.
No, I'm going to say the logic does not hold up on Gerald's part.
Where they rub their cloacas together. That's how chickens do it.
John, right after Gerald leaves, gets another text from Adrianna, and he acts surprised. I don't know why. He's already gotten a message from her. He says aloud to himself, I need to call her and set this straight.
And I know movies and television shows do the 555 thing with numbers, but this one really bothers me. It's 555, 555, 555, 4.
They put a 4 at the end.
Don't care for that.
That's so it would
It's
be
their
a
own
little.
online 2013 signature touch.
They knew all 5s, which would not be believable.
No,
So
but
they had to put
this
a 4
is.
at the end.
John calls Adrianna, and Adrianna seems pretty excited, calls him Johnny, her old pet name for him.
Oh, hi, babe.
Although, to be fair, at this point, she's being reasonable and just being like, what? We can't reconnect
she
at this
seems
point?
totally normal right now.
He's the one who's like, ooh, I can't ever reach out to someone I was with in high school. And she's like, why not?
He interrupts her, mid-sentence and says, I'm married. She says, yeah, I'm married too, but it's been forever and it'd be cool to hang out as friends. He clearly does want to meet her, but he feels torn because what if he had sex with her? Again, it's so weird and presumptuous and childish. The other thing is John could just tell Mary, hey, Adrianna's back in town. Let's have dinner with her. We'll all have dinner, or we'll go have dinner together.
What are the Christian rules on man, woman, woman? I don't think that's allowed. That
You probably
can't be
have to
allowed.
bring the husband. I don't think a woman's supposed to be unattended
Yeah.
in that world.
It has to be male, female. There can't be any other number of that equation. They have to be together in that way. So male, female's okay. Male, female,
Right.
male, not good. Male,
No.
female, not good.
But the thing is, he would never tell Mary about this because even right now, we know John's intentions are not good.
Right from the beginning.
I do feel like, though, if he did tell her, she would understand that his intentions are
She
bad.
seems
She
like a pretty
understands
understanding
everything.
person, yeah.
Well, and because his entire reaction is, Adrianna, like he's not subtle at all. So it would be very evident if he told her.
We get a glimpse at Adrianna's home life, too. We see she's married to a wealthy, gray-haired Frenchman
Air quotes.
named Pierre Boudreau.
No, it's Pierre Baguette.
Oh,
You messed that one up.
he hates Americans. He thinks that they are all lazy. Well,
Yeah, guilty as
she
charged.
tells him, well, I'm going out to meet an old friend. And they do some couples arguing just to make sure that we know they've had struggles in the past. This has not been an easy path. So the movie is right now at least laying down at least a base layer of sympathy for Adrianna. We know she struggled.
She's not in a good marriage situation, probably. And for all we know, that was kind of like a down period in her life to have to leave John behind.
And she met this guy in France, but the movie never addresses it. But perhaps she also suspects he's lying about his identity because does this sound like a Frenchman to you?
If I told you once, I told you 1,000 times. Never do anything until I tell you to.
Would you care for a sparkling water, Mr. Wilde? My wife has told me many things about you. You'll kept me waiting, Mr. Wilde. Believe me, I'm not a person who's used to being kept waiting.
What is with the whole Americans hate the French more than anything thing? I don't really get it because Americans don't have the same sort of vitriol towards Britons or Germans. I guess there's the German thing, but I don't know. There's something to do with the France thing. And it's like, if we're going historically, like France was destroyed by the greatest army in history. It's not their fault that they share a border. So I don't know why there's the whole French are cowards. It's like, I don't get it.
You
I don't
just
understand
described it, though. That's never stopped Western culture for 1 second. The idea that it doesn't matter if it's your fault. If you were defeated, we will look at you in a feminine
True.
way.
Well, and there's the whole thing, they say it here, where I think Adrianna says to Pierre, no, we saved your butts in World War II.
Yeah.
It's like America waited till the last possible minute until everything was done.
That
pretty
line,
much.
when it is said, I out loud to myself when I was watching it by myself, I said, who wrote this movie? Like,
It's a very old man Christian thing.
Yeah, it's somebody who sits around and reads World War II articles about specifically artillery or something. That's who wrote this movie.
The writer, the script writer of that line really enjoy getting their zinger. And on that, they've wanted to say
What a
that to a
loser.
French person their whole life and has never known anyone outside of their own culture. So
That is very
they're like,
clear.
here's a chance for me to say what I've always thought about the French to this fake guy.
And make this character the butt of all the jokes, like this Frenchman who is just
he's awful.
You
probably
are not
from
supposed to
Texas.
like Pierre. He's definitely a villain. I guess maybe like the main villain.
It's definitely a thing where
the
the
main villain
writer,
of the movie is Satan.
well, certainly, and in life, the writer for this movie, whoever wrote it or group of people wrote it, sat down and said, we need to have a character that shows that Adriana's home life is bad. Her husband's got to be bad. What can we do? Oh, evil
Let's make him
Frenchman.
French. Yeah.
That's it.
A rich French guy. That's
Yeah.
who's evil.
And he, of course, says, oh, doing all of this for you, ma chérie. But the captioning couldn't quite understand what he was saying. So what the captioning says is, I'll just say it in English, I'm doing this all for you, parentheses, speaks French. It didn't know
And
chérie.
To be fair, I don't know who was paid to caption this thing, but probably it was like a TaskRabbit type deal.
I think Cherie was said better by that sassy lady in Bones than Pierre Baguette here.
Well, she's great.
Carolyn.
John pleads with himself out loud some more before the inevitable call back home to Mary to say, man, this first day, I'm going to be really late. And what he's really going to do is go see Adrianna.
Well, what he says is, I'll be home in an hour and a half. Why give it a time frame? Why not just say, I'll be late?
He can do this weird thing in an hour and a half and wrap it up in his mind. So he's thinking maybe it's more believable that way.
John then, like an innocent man, goes in the bathroom and looks at himself in the mirror and says, nothing's going to happen, man. It's going to be all right. Has anyone ever acted like this?
The only way it would make sense is if legitimately he did actually have a connection with her and belong with her. Like, if they went that way, sure, then we could probably talk about this
There's
movie.
another way, which is right now we're seeing a guy who, to me, looks like he's cheated before and knows he's about to do it
Well,
again.
that,
That's
yeah,
it.
like a serial thing. Yeah.
That I can get behind, but that clearly isn't the case.
Because I can't imagine that, like, anyone in this circumstance goes into it knowing they're going to cheat. And he seems to know.
he should be excited. Hey, this is my ex-girlfriend. Let's have fun. But the whole, from the very beginning is, hey, it's my ex-girlfriend. Must bang.
There's no way this will go any way but that, is how he looks at it the whole time like, either I don't talk to her or we're gonna fuck.
John picks up Adrianna at her big mansion house, tells her all about his new promotion after they do a hug, and Adrianna tells John all about her husband, Pierre Boudreau, who works for a cosmetic line and needs a marketing firm. Turns out marketing firm is whatever it is that John does. So maybe that gives us some foreshadowing of a future plot line to come.
And I can get behind the fact that now that John has seen her, he can't stop his urges because she's dressed like Wilma Flintstone. With the pearls and everything.
Yeah, and it's fitting too because John's car does not have a bottom. He actually has to pedal it with his feet.
That's why she pointed out the car. That makes more sense
Yeah,
now.
oh, it's the car from the past. Like they wildly misjudge when they were in high school. They think it's like the Stone Age.
Well, the Earth is only a couple thousand years old.
Yeah, they believe the Flintstones.
I like the idea because she says, is that your car? And he's like, no, it's a loaner. I like the idea there's a place that gives out loan cars that don't have bottoms. Like, oh, you got to drive this with your feet.
Well, the insurance on this is quite a bit higher because it's quite dangerous. We've had several customers lose feet and lives. It's time for another flashback. We see 32-year-old, as Van said earlier, John and Adrianna parting ways for good, promising to be together. It's basically a repeat of our last flashback.
And then she goes, okay, I have to leave. We're driving to France.
Yeah.
She didn't give him much of note. Like, I know she just learned and then the next day told him, by the way, I have to go to France like now. And then runs away.
We're driving to France. My dad's plant moved there.
Well, that's the other thing. Later, she mentioned some stuff about her dad getting her this big modeling
We're always losing
contract.
businesses to France.
But he's in like a factory. It doesn't. Nobody thought this through.
No, the details don't quite work. I don't disagree with that.
Again, this movie's very funny. All of the details of it are just wrong.
Why make it France, though? Why not just be like, I'm moving across the country?
I guarantee you,
perfect.
they had this actor that does the French accent.
They thought it was good,
and
probably.
they had to use
We
this
gotta
guy.
write this
They're like,
in.
we've got to make room for him. Plus, I can use my big zinger about French people. It all lined up
He's
for the
someone's
person who
accountant.
wrote this.
that works on the movie or something.
I will say, I know you guys are not happy with the accent. It's the best French accent that anyone else in this movie could have done. Like, he did a
Sure.
passable
Fine.
job to where I was like, okay, that's not terrible. No one else in this movie could have done even any kind of accent period at all.
I would have loved to hear them all try.
You don't know that. You don't know if that PI that comes up later, if he could
that
do it.
guy's good.
Oh, audience, we do have likable characters later.
Sure.
But it's going to be a little bit. Back in present day, John and Adrianna are driving to the restaurant to catch up when another love song begins to play, and it plays for a little while before Adrianna goes, "Oh, this is our song."
I can tell because it's bad.
It's the worst. But the idea that, again, that not that many years have passed, and it takes a while to realize that a song that you called your song is the song playing.
And then he's dumbfounded. And he goes, you remember this song? You remember a pop song? What?
And again, at most, I would say realistically 10, 12 years have passed.
Yeah.
At the restaurant, Adrianna insists that John try the smoked salmon, as she is a regular here. Smoked salmon seems like the kind of thing that the writers feel is very exotic.
Yeah, very pretentious and
When in fact, it's
expensive.
just a healthy option.
And this is the thing.
Pretty affordable, too.
We were talking about when we watched it is how, like, he's been to this place a bunch of times too. And she's trying
Yeah.
to be like, you should have this. And it's not like it's his first time here. They've both been to this place a bunch of times. Why is she like, oh, you have to try this?
It doesn't really add up with the character because she's not really at any other point trying to, like, culture shame him or anything.
The car.
That's true. I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
What, maybe there's a little more there than we were giving
think
credit for.
You guys are being too mean to this movie.
It's possible that her character is inconsistent.
Well, the direction they take her is certainly inconsistent.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. Back at John and Mary's house, we see Mary, and she's just sitting at the kitchen island alone, checking her phone with one bowl of pasta, a single candle, and a big dry hunk of bread. This was all for John, but he's too busy getting it on with his ex at
Okay.
a restaurant.
It's your husband's first day of his big new promotion. He's called you to say, I'll be late, but you've made the meal. You're sitting there. You already know he said, I'm going to be late. You do one of two things. Do you A, eat and think to yourself, I guess he got busy? Or do you B, sit and stare at the food angrily?
Yeah, some martyr stuff going on here.
Probably some B.
But it would make sense that, the people involved with this movie would identify heavily with the idea of martyrdom. Thing is, though, Mary, she just doesn't want to bug John. He's busy at work. And the man's in charge.
It's important that she say that out loud, too. Oh, I don't want to bug him.
Yeah.
To herself.
Doing a
Too
real
busy.
leatherhead situation
Yes,
here.
John was leatherheading earlier, too, about his agony about possibly cheating. And Pierre's always kind of leatherheading.
I would like that to somehow get into common usage for people just to kind of know what leatherheading is.
I'm going to the kitchen.
Oh, I made all this delicious food.
So, having seen both the settings, both the food settings that they had, if you're John, would you rather have the meal that he did have, or would you rather have had what Mary made him at his
I'm
house?
not a fish guy, so I'd rather have the spaghetti. But I don't know. It's tough. I like going out, but also I really like being home.
Do you ever spend $600 when you go to Antonio's?
Not going to do that. Not ever going to do
Oh.
that.
John also dumps food on his pants and claims that they cost $500.
Yeah, well, they're a wealthy married couple.
John, in the middle of conversation, also says, "Why'd you have to go and leave?"
You can tell he's taken by how much fun they're having. And
Yeah.
it reminds him of, we could have always had this, but you did your disappearing act.
The way he reads it like a little impatient kid, to really just, it says a lot. It does, to the actor's credit, I guess. Not really, but it does immediately tell you that the character's mad at the fate he did wind up with.
Sure, and maybe feels like he was wronged more than she was, even though it was a development that was outside of both their control. Maybe he feels like she did it to him.
It's a very stunted, childish reaction because why did you have to go? Because my parents moved. We know the why.
There's no
adult,
mystery.
Yeah, would go like, why could this happen?
It's kind of like Adam saying, "Eve, why did you take a bite from that apple?"
Just like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Adrianna explains that she got caught up with Satan, which is the wrong modeling crowd in France, but thankfully she met Pierre, a man a bit older, but I don't think as old as I initially thought. I think he just has gray hair. But I think he is 15 years older or something.
Yeah, what do you think he is, like maybe 45?
Yeah,
Sure.
something in that range, I'd say. Out of nowhere, as John and Adrianna are enjoying their conversation, oh, here's Alan.
I didn't know the Grand Canyon could move.
Well, he can, and he's here maybe alone, just at this at this fancy restaurant, just walking up, and he is excited. He is fumbling over his words. He has a big smile. Oh, ooh. He's so excited because he thinks he's meeting the great Mary, wife of John. Oh, but the truth is revealed, and Alan is disappointed, and a big frown spreads across his big creased face.
He makes no attempt to reconcile his disappointment and try to mask it.
No.
So that it's not awkward for the... Once you realize it's not that person's wife, you don't just go, oh,
ew.
I thought you'd be out with your wife.
He does out loud say that.
Yes, to them.
It's really rude.
And John is just like, no, this is my good friend. And your wife should be here.
It's enough to where I feel like if I were in this position and did have good intentions, not John's intentions,
You'd be
I
really
would say
pissed.
something like, I don't think you have any control over my plans, sir.
Go away.
Yeah. And who are you here with?
Are you working here?
Are you always here?
Do you follow me?
Back at John and Mary's, we see Mary finally give up on her hunk of bread, call it a night, and go up to bed.
Leaving the dishes and everything.
Yeah,
there.
everything's just out. You're going to get ants.
I guess that's her, like, is she just so sad she can't do it? Or is she kind of passive aggressive, like, I'll make John clean this up when he gets home?
I think it's that. I think it's the second option.
Could be mise en scene.
Yeah, this movie really doing that.
John drops Adrianna off at home and talks about, well, not quite yet. He talks about how he felt right after they split, right after she went to France, and how they both have inappropriate feelings for each other now, even. And Adrianna just grabs John and kisses him. But then he goes back in and he kisses her, and then they break it off. They both say sorry. She runs inside, and John yells out loud, "We are married," and weakly slaps his steering wheel. It's very funny.
When she pulls back, she goes, and then puts her hand over her mouth like a toddler.
Gasps,
like,
yeah.
Oh my. It's a very weird reaction.
And as of right now, it comes across as they both realize they made a mistake in the heat of the moment. That will change. Their perspectives on the matter will differ. John arrives home to a kitchen island full of food and a congratulations banner from Party City. And the next...
They cost $1.
Yeah.
This is the cheapest one they had.
It was in a plastic pack.
Oh, you're a high-powered executive. Let me buy $1 decoration here.
Well, he's a tightwad. That does come up later.
True.
He'll drop money on cheating, though. The next morning, he thrusts this big tray of breakfast right in Mary's face when she's trying to sleep and says, "Hey, I'm going to act normal and innocent."
She goes, "What time is it?" He goes, "It's time to eat." I would just be like, that is not an answer to my question, sir.
She's understandably confused.
What's the occasion?
Well, after last night's fiasco, I just felt bad.
You must have really had your hands full.
What's that supposed to mean?
No, nothing. It's just... Gosh, I can't remember the last time that you came home from work so late.
What are you trying to say?
Nothing. I just thought that you would be home earlier.
I told you that this promotion was going to be rough on us. You should know that I'm going to be working late hours from now on.
It's just that... Well, when you said that you were going to be home in an hour and then you weren't...
I said I was sorry. I made you breakfast in bed. What more do you want?
Ugh.
Ooh. All right, time to divorce him. Right there.
Right away. Like, you psycho. What are you up to? I just love the idea, too, that she's like, oh, late night. What do you think I did? Right away.
Yeah.
When she says that you must have had your hands full, they're like, what are you implying about Adriana's boobs?
With bosoms?
They're not that big. John, who are you talking about?
Well, by the way, his breakfast in bed that he made,
Looks like
quote unquote,
shit.
for her, it's a bagel with cream cheese on it and a bowl of fruit. He
Big
didn't even
bowl of
cook.
fruit.
He didn't cook. He
Man,
didn't put
I
any effort
don't
into
get.
this.
I don't want food in my fucking bed. I don't like
Wow.
this idea. I want to get it and eat it at my desk while watching something.
While watching Online 2013.
I did do that, kind of. Mary offers a rebuttal, but John says, I cleaned the bathroom one time.
Second instance here where I went, time to divorce him.
And these are these horrible relationship
The
traits.
generic fights that are
Yeah.
in Christian movies. I cleaned up a mess. I shopped for groceries.
The accurate part is, of course, a partner using unrelated positive deeds to try and cover up their misdoings.
Mhm.
But it all is so generic.
And the argument that they're having is not something two people this age should have
No.
organically. This feels like a 50-year-old person argument. Well, I clean the bathroom. Well, I cook. Well, that is what this feels like.
John leaves the breakfast tray. He goes to work. He gets on socialfriendpages.com and he looks at Adrianna's landing page, but Alan bursts right in the door. If John is not at home, Alan is on his ass.
I feel like Alan went straight to the office after Antonio's and waited for John to come back after that event.
Like rocking back and forth, just snarling to himself.
He should have done that thing I love so much where he was waiting in John's office with the chair spun the other way. And then he got to spin around and you see that horrible forehead.
And you go, ah.
That would be a really good villain
What happened?
Are you all right?
Oh, this was always there.
Of course you turned out to be a villain. The thing is, Alan could still redeem himself here. He was weird at the restaurant, but it could have just been his tone. Now he could sit and be like, hey, sorry I was weird. I was just a little thrown off. Who's your friend? What did you know her from high school or whatever? But that's not what he does. Alan sits down and gets nosy. He says, last night looked inappropriate, John. No one would do that either, I don't think. And again, that would be cause for saying, get out of my office.
Especially since John has just recently been promoted to above Alan and could be like, this is inappropriate.
Not spiritually.
This is inappropriate for a couple of reasons, actually, Alan.
John tells Alan, hey, it was innocent, but Alan will not relent. Alan wants answers, and Alan says, does Mary know about Adrianna? This is my business. Alan then says some really condescending, prideful, chosen one stuff.
Look, John, as Christians, we got to be really careful with female relationships outside of our marriages. And I don't care how innocent it looks or how good your intentions are. There's always a chance for temptations to arise.
Believe me.
Everyone's trying to get you when you're a Christian, man.
This
all
also
the temptations.
goes to the thing where, and if you go to Reddit, for example, and you talk to Christian people or you hear these stories of Christian people who believe like this, they are dumbfounded and flabbergasted at people who don't believe in, for example, Christianity.
Right, who can't live by that same code.
In the sense of, they're like, well, if the Bible doesn't exist and tell you
why
can't
don't you
do
just
these
kill
things,
and fuck everyone?
yeah, why aren't you out doing whatever you want? It's like, well, you can have a moral compass and not have it
to me, it's
thrown
far
at you by a Bible.
scarier that you need a written down set of rules.
Because if something happens and that person loses their faith, gloves are
or
off.
what if there's something that they don't feel is addressed directly? Who knows what they'll do? This whole speech implies what you just said, Van, which is that we as Christians have to actually take responsibility for our actions, whereas the heathens do not. They just party in the streets of Babylon or whatever.
Although his way of saying it, take responsibility, is just flee from everything that could have any element of having to show any resistance.
Yeah.
So his idea is basically just run from everything that you might have to overcome.
Yeah.
Don't face anything. Run the fuck
you're
away.
a weak little worm at the center, at the core. So don't even try to do anything. Well,
Great message.
Wonderful way to live your life. I'm sure you won't, right before you die, say, oh no, I made a mistake. Alan goes on, he quotes scripture too, and then tells John it's just what Spencer said. It's just best to steer clear of living.
I mean, now, because the living is after this, John, like we're not, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what we do
This
here.
is
We're
just
just
first
trying
life.
to, we're doing our thing so we can be with God forever.
You might as well throw this one away. It doesn't even count.
Not even worth it. In fact, just divorce your wife and live with me, John.
That'd be a good story then.
Cuddle up in my forehead.
Director Kevin Otto gets a little chance to shine now as we get a montage of Mary and John eating separate meals at nighttime. She's at home reading her Bible while she eats. He's at work looking at socialfriendpages.com while he eats.
And it's supposed to be a passage of time, 7-8 days or whatever, because there's several meals.
Probably,
that they
I'd
both
imagine
eat.
7 days to mirror the amount of time that it took God to so create the world.
It's a healthy number there, 7. But I like the idea of after the montage ends and John finishes eating his final meal and he goes, "Ugh, 5 meals today. What a day."
Oh, I have to throw up.
And then maybe he's just like a little chunkier the rest of the movie without saying anything
He's
about
burping constantly and eating Tums. The song over this, by the way, the songs in this are really bad. And they all sound the same. They're acoustic bone style songs, only with less production value.
That's like the thought I had when, the first flashback or whatever, after the flashbacks, when he's in the car on Adrianna and their little forbidden date, when she's like, that's our song. I was thinking he'd be like, how can you tell?
This is a song?
It sounds like all of them.
It just is noise. It's not a song.
It
at
sounds
any
like
point.
everything and nothing at once.
I like the idea of John saying that and then maybe starting to cry after.
My life's been a lie. I'm going to live differently from now on. Mary needs answers. So like many people, she needs to go to a parental figure she looks up to for those answers. So she goes to her mother, Margaret's pawn shop, to get some advice. Margaret, in shorthand, is a real Claudette from The Room. She is very fun. The actor playing her,
having a good time.
Vicky Jacobs, a lot of panache here. She's trying, and she's not good at it, but she's memorable.
When Mary walks in the pawn shop, Margaret says to her, "So what's going on? You didn't come all the way down here just to say hi. I would just turn around and leave."
Yeah, real put upon, just like Claudette.
Those are the first words said to me. I'd be like, fine then, I guess I don't need to be here.
I always love that in shows and movies because I feel like that is the scriptwriter's attempt to be like, yeah, no one would actually show up just to have this conversation. We've got to get them in the same scene. We have no choice. We're going to have our characters be self-aware and address this and be like, well, you wouldn't have come all the way over here for nothing, but it does come across in the scene like that's a really hateful thing to say.
And they might think they're getting across the fact that Margaret is sassy, but she just comes across mean-spirited.
Horribly mean. Like
which maybe works in the movie's favor as to why Mary is so easily gaslit by John.
Oh, that's a good point.
I don't think that was intentional.
Layers
but
upon
I'm going to give
layers.
them points.
This is a regular souffle, the layers that are... I don't think souffles have layers. Never. That analogy doesn't work.
Put the point down on the scorecard for Online 2013. Good plotting? I don't know.
Let's go tiramisu.
Good souffle.
As Mary starts to confide in Margaret, Margaret kind of does turn out to be right, though, that Mary came because she needed something, not just for a random visit.
Okay. Look, I don't know what's going on. I've never seen John act so nuts.
I told you never to marry that guy. He's just like all the other men in the world. Ain't nothing but a bunch of dogs.
Bunch of dogs.
So that's a good example of Margaret. She's a lot of fun.
Katie, the girlfriend, immediately fell in love with Margaret. It doesn't hurt Margaret's case that she's 100% correct.
I don't like that she's correct for the wrong reason.
Right.
For like histrionic reasons. You know, basically she's like, oh, well, my ex-husband, your dad, Mary, was a gambling addict. So I know that your husband must suck too.
Yeah, it's the same story for everyone. I want to like work in her pawn shop. I want to help her, like, I don't know, like do her finances or something.
I think it'd be, and you could be like, hey, you old bag, and she'd be like, hey, you piece of shit. You know, that'd be a relationship.
Rib
you'd
each
have.
other.
That sort of setting, like a small business sort
I
of
do think it'd be
like
fun.
a pawn shop setting. I'd love to work there. It'd be
There
great.
are a ton of lamps in that pawn shop, too. It's a lot of shit, but also like 6 or 7 lamps behind her. So maybe it's a lamp-centric pawn shop.
It actually made me realize that I missed probably my opportunity that I always wanted to work at a record store. And sometimes I will listen to a podcast or you'll see it in a TV show of people talking for real, but it'll be a celebrity and they'll be like, I always wanted to work in a record store or something like that. And it's like, fuck you, you have money. For me, this is realistic still. I do not make very much money. So if you own a record store and would like to hire me, I would work there.
Get in touch.
Could be like John Cusack in that High Fidelity movie.
Yeah, I could be an asshole. I probably would be too.
Could be?
Yeah. Or inwardly, I would be. I wouldn't be like him. I wouldn't be outwardly like your taste sucks. I would just be silently judging inside.
Have you ever talked about how John Cusack is really tall and has that face?
Yeah,
it just doesn't
tall?
seem like he would be
He's
tall.
like 6'3".
Huh.
Doesn't seem like it.
He does have that face.
He
though.
has a boyish dog face. But I don't mean that negatively.
No,
I love John Cusack.
Yeah.
Everyone does. He's just giant. In real life, you'd be like, oh my God, giant, intimidating John Cusack.
Nicolas Cage also tall.
Yeah, he is tall.
Yeah.
What do you think about Joan Cusack? I like her too.
She's probably
Whatever
tall.
happened to her?
She was on Shameless a few years ago.
Oh, good
yeah.
for her.
I think she's still acting.
With
but I don't-
William Hat Macy.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know
right.
what the H is.
I
Howard.
don't think we know.
William Hairless Macy. There's a bunch of nude scenes, and he is his body is
You
completely
can tell
hairless.
looking at him, he wouldn't be a
That's
hairy
interesting.
guy.
I thought he might be because he has a good beard when he
And
tries.
that mustache. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A big bushy one.
You know he's in Jurassic Park 3, right?
Yeah, I need to watch those again. I really have only watched the first one 100 times, and the other two I've seen once each.
Huh.
You know what these guys all have in common? None of them are online.
No, William H. Macy does not have a guest spot at
John
any point.
Cusack, nope, nowhere to be
I
found.
really wish they were, though. That could elevate this.
Even
Who-
though John Cusack has the right initials.
This
for
was
it.
this was the era where it's not They obviously didn't have the budget, but it's not impossible that Nicolas Cage couldn't have been in
No,
this one.
2013, yeah. If you could even pay off like one wing of one of his castles, you could get him at that point. Now he's back in the game.
Yeah, he's doing the things he actually wants to do.
I guess
now.
he was in a movie at the Cannes Film Festival that just debuted that was very well received. So I'm curious to see that in the fall whenever it comes out.
I've checked that out. Now, I did read at the Cannes Festival that they debuted the Apprentice movie.
Yeah,
It's about
I
Trump.
didn't click that headline when I saw it.
Well, the best part about it is the Trump group has sent a cease and desist letter, and they were trying to sell it for distribution rights at Cannes.
That's
So they're
basically
saying-
film festivals. Yeah, it's like, look at how good this is, buy it.
So the actual Trump group is saying, you can't do this. It's libel and all the other things. But the thing is they're going to chicken out at the end, because if they decide to go to court, I would love to see that discovery session of the Trump group trying to prove that all these things were fake. Guess what? Wouldn't happen.
Who's in that movie?
There is a Sebastian Stan. So there is
Oh,
one
okay.
real actor.
Okay. Who does
at
he
least.
play?
Trump.
Huh.
Yeah. I can't stand the guy, Trump, that is. So I
No
don't
one
even
can.
I don't
That-
even
that is
know if I could
reasonable.
watch
I
Sebastian
can't.
Stan being him.
I can't now, and I don't have like a moralistic reason for this really, but my gut tells me I don't like the idea of entertainment properties currently being made about him.
Yeah,
It
maybe
needs
like
to wait.
maybe a while. Someday, yes.
I felt similarly about the George W. Bush wave of movies in the 2000s, and maybe the intent was good, but that it felt like a weird way to cash in on something that was still going on to me.
You mean like That's My Bush on Comedy Central?
Like That's My Bush, like W, and I think there was another one. Well, Vice was later, the Dick Cheney movie.
Mm-hmm.
That movie is not good, but it is kind of funny.
Who is Dick Cheney? It's a good
Christian
actor.
Bale.
That's what it's
weirdly,
amazing.
yes.
And it's a very stunty performance, but it is funny. I mean, it's pretty fun to watch.
Were we talking about a movie called Online? I don't remember.
I don't want to.
I
but
tried to get us back and it did not work.
We Dikembe Mutombo'd that out of here and talked about real movies
Yeah.
more.
John Cusack put us down quite
That's
the path.
okay. I think we can be allowed at least one detour when discussing
Yeah,
a
as
movie
much
of
as
this
John is
caliber.
taking a detour in his marriage right now. A detour from fidelity. Mary leaves the pawn shop that we were in at one point and says, "Hey, John's nothing like Dad." Margaret backs off, but then angrily says to Mary, "You need to be honest and demand the same of your bum husband." Then Mary goes back to work. We rejoin John while he's staring blankly into the distance and then pulling a Bible out of his desk.
And it has his name on it. It says, John, do people have like auto-engraved Bibles?
Yes.
yeah.
Oh,
That's
they
a
do.
thing?
They
Definitely.
very much do.
Did you have one, Brian?
No, but that's a thing I saw people have.
Yeah, if that was a big part of your upbringing, I think that's a treasured item of your youth. You look back on that like, this is the Bible that I got saved with or whatever.
I do still have the Bible that I was baptized with. It's doesn't have my name on
Big
it,
keepsakes.
but they gave it to me. And
Here's the problem. I feel like if I'm going to have a Bible, I want my name on it. That's kind of neat.
well, this thing is fascinating. I should show it to you guys. It's got like a leather cover thing.
Did you take notes in it?
No,
Right in the margins, question mark, Ezekiel.
the Bible that I did take notes in was like a trade paperback style
Yeah.
Bible, like a more durable.
I'll
one.
be
I don't
honest.
have that any longer.
When I did try my hand at religion like 10 years ago, I actually really liked the idea of having a Bible. I never did, but I wanted my
Of
very
course.
own. I was like, I want mine.
I have a handful of like mental health and philosophy books physically because I like looking at them and getting into them every now and then.
Having books is fun.
That
I
would
like
be the
it.
good part about being religious. You have your very own Bible.
Well, I mean, I have one, and I don't even have to be religious for it any longer.
I've got one too, the Mormon Bible. It's
Yeah,
hanging
that's
around here
true.
somewhere. I don't remember where.
We were reading out
Popcorn
of that for
popping
a
on the
little while.
apricot.
You remember when we said we were going to do that? We were.
I
Gonna,
wish you would have.
I'm going to do it.
Bring it back.
At the end of this episode, I will read some Mormon
All right.
scripture.
This has inspired us.
After pulling this Bible out, John calls his dad, who you might recall is a pastor. That was briefly mentioned earlier in a flashback. During the middle of the call, though, he hangs up and says, I've got to call you back. I'm getting an incoming business call. And maybe it sort of actually is. He's not really lying because it's Pierre Boudreau on the line.
Hello, is this Mr. South American?
It sounds just like that. For real. Pierre says, we need to meet tonight at my place. He's very, very quick with it, and he avoids any reason and hangs up too quickly.
Very blunt.
It's just enough for John to not know, is this about our marketing firm handling his cosmetics line, or is this about me planting my smoochers on his wife?
And of course, the movie is trying to do its hand at being cryptic here, so you don't know. But if that was a business setup there, that's a really weird way to do that.
Real power play on Pierre's part.
I guess
That's a lot of P's I just said.
If he were like the the Hilton guy that they talk about in Mad Men. What's his name?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. The guy
Paris
who founded
Hilton's
all
dad.
the Hiltons and was fucking nuts and was a billionaire. If you're one of those types where you're just really eccentric, I guess you could take that stance with someone when you're about to go into business with. I just don't know if Pierre is at
that level.
Yeah, I don't think
he is. He's no Maybelline.
This is too early in the movie for it to be revealed that Pierre is found out too. So there really aren't any stakes here.
No,
I don't think.
Well, we could know at this point that Adrianna's told him, but again, it's too early. We're like 35 minutes into the movie.
He definitely is. He's supposed to be giving off a vibe where he might know. He ends it with like
that. We're supposed to wonder.
Yes, and he tells him to meet him at his house, and he says, "I believe you know where it is." Definitely suggests, "I know you were here."
Which again, he could just know they were going out to dinner. Which, to be fair, Adrianna did tell Pierre, "I'm going out to dinner with a friend."
Yeah,
she didn't lie.
She handled it correctly, and actually seen as the business connection is there, is kind of doing like a good thing.
Yeah,
connecting these two. So some of this actually holds up.
The plot's about to thicken, but first, John's got to call Mary and say, "Oh, I'm working late again." And again, this time he's really not lying, though. Maybe. "I've got a client that could be important." Mary says, "I'm a little disappointed because I made reservations at Antonio's." And John says, "You shouldn't have done that. That's expensive." But what he could say is, it's kind of weird to just make reservations when you know I have to work late.
She should not have made the reservations and not told him.
That's weird.
Till the day of, that is a no.
Yeah.
The reason he gives for it being a no
Very
is
bad.
Not correct.
Especially because we know his pants cost $500. And guess what? We're going to leave you, the audience, right there for this week and pick up next week with the conclusion of Online 2013. Will they all wind up in hell? But until then, check us out on YouTube, where Van's been uploading episodes. He just uploaded a really cool Leatherhead-type music video for a song by the band Red Dress that I know about Leatherhead. You can also find us on Patreon at patreon.com/BooTuInc. You can go to BooTuInc.com for our written word, not the Lord's. And we're all on Blue Sky now. I'm at Loud Guitar Brian. Spencer is at Golden Hat Mick. Van is at Bootu Inc.
That's correct.
Yes.
You keep going. I'm going to go get that Bible.
Go follow us. You can also give us a review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll get a big cross tattooed on all of our foreheads.
Why not?
You have to give us 5 stars, though, and then also tell us how you view us as perhaps some sort of deity.
The other thing about getting the cross on the forehead is that would give us a chance to kind of look like Alan a little bit. Like it's split our foreheads right in the middle.
That's true. It'd be a real conversation starter too.
Maybe that's how it happened with him, is he was trying to get closer to God and he was carving the cross in there.
The tattoo, yeah.
You know how like Charles Manson carved the Nazi symbol? This guy carved a cross, except he got the one line done and
Trent
stopped.
Reznor, to get closer to God, he would have to fuck you like an animal to do
of course.
to accomplish
and you
that.
have to let him.
Mm-hmm. There's really no choice in the matter. Before we go, Van, would you like to read us an excerpt from the Mormon Bible that you just got out of your garage?
Which would not be approved by the online cast.
Certainly not.
Or us.
All right, let's bust this out. Let's see here. All right, that's index. I don't want to be there.
Let's read the index of the Bible.
All hail ye great index.
All right, this is Alma. And I don't understand how the numbers work, so it's paragraphs or whatever. But we have chapter 15 of Alma 1424-15:3.
Sure.
Alma and Amulek go to Sidom and establish a church.
His names are cool.
Alma heals Zizrom, which is the best name I've ever read, who joins the church. Many are baptized, and the church prospers. Alma and Amulek go to Zarahemla, about 81 BC. A little more here. And it came to pass that Alma and Amulek were commanded to depart out of that city. And they departed, and came out even into the land of Sidom. And behold, there they found all the people who had departed out of the land of Ammonahah, who had been cast out and stoned, because they believed in the words of Alma too. And they related unto them all that they happened to their wives and children, and also concerning themselves and their power of deliverance. And also Zizrom lay sick at Sidom.
Wow. Well, I can't imagine a more concise and impactful way to end this show.